Right now, a version of you is about to move before you know it. You will reach, flinch, break, or grab, and only a heartbeat later will a calm voice inside say, "I chose that." Scientists spent 40 years chasing that gap with spinning dots and brain scanners, and what they caught underneath your sense of choosing is stranger than either side of the free will fight admits, because the twist isn't that you have no will, it's about which half of you is telling the story. Start with the stove. You reach for a pan, your fingers land on metal that's far too hot, and your hand is already snapping back before the burn even reaches you. The yank comes first, the owl comes second. You didn't decide to pull away, there was no time to decide anything at all. Your body pulled away, then handed you a warm little feeling and let you call it a choice. That's the gap. And it isn't some one-off accident of a bad burn. You live half your day down inside that exact delay. Now the road. The car ahead of you stops hard, brake lights flaring, and by the time the word brake even forms in your head, your foot is already flat on the pedal. The choosing didn't launch the stomp. The stomp launched, and I hit the brake showed up a beat later to take the credit. It gets quieter than a near miss though. Most of your moves never bother to wake you at all. The fridge door opens, and your hand is already inside. Your phone buzzes, and your hand is already halfway to your pocket. You pull into the driveway and cannot recall a single turn of the drive home. Tens of thousands of times a day, the body acts and the narrator is asleep at the desk. None of this is some modern glitch from too many screens. It's the oldest survival trick you own. Picture an ancestor of yours out on open grassland. A lion erupts from the dry grass. The one who stopped to weigh his options got eaten. The one whose legs were already moving before any thought could form lived long enough to have children. You are his grandchild. Your autopilot isn't a bug in the machine. It's the winning body, still running, thousands of generations later. For decades, scientists tried to catch that head start in a lab. They did. In 1983, a scientist named Benjamin Libet sat people in front of a dot circling a clock face and gave them one job. Flick your wrist whenever you feel the urge, then tell me where the dot was the instant you felt it. That's the whole setup. A glowing spot going round and a twitching finger. The entire storm over human free will hangs off that one homely little scene. Then Libet lined the brain's trace up against the felt moment of choosing. The two didn't match. The brain's build-up toward that flick, a signal first spotted in Freiburg back in 1964 and invisible unless you run the tape backward from the movement, started climbing about 550 milliseconds before the wrist moved. But people only felt the urge around 200 milliseconds before. Do the subtraction. The decision you actually experience arrives a full third of a second late, and a third of a second was only the warm-up. A scanner was about to stretch that lead into whole seconds. Jump to 2008. John Dylan Haynes slid people into an fMRI scanner, let them press left or right whenever they pleased, and read the choice off a patch of cortex behind the forehead up to 7 seconds before they felt they'd chosen. 7 seconds! Long enough to make a cup of coffee. It sounds like a verdict on all of us, right up until you check how often the scanner was actually right. The scanner hit about 60%. Flip a coin and you'd land 50. So the famous line, "your brain decides 10 seconds early," is really a brain that leans one way plus a nudge. Not a puppet master hauling on your strings. It tilts you. It doesn't command you. Blurry scans can only ever lean, though. Sharper tools were about to catch single cells in the act. Then the picture got sharper. In 2011, Itzhak Fried recorded from single neurons deep in people's frontal lobes and watched individual cells fire toward the coming movement with better than 80% accuracy, about 700 milliseconds before the person said they had decided. Not a blurry average this time. Named cells, caught leaning before awareness, so it looks airtight. Brain first, you second. Then a physicist asked whether that signal was ever a decision at all. Here's the crack that split the whole thing open. In 2012, Aaron Sugar asked a heretic's question. What if that buildup isn't a decision forming at all? What if it's just random neural noise drifting up and down until it happens to cross a line and the crossing is the move? Average thousands of those noisy runs, all lined up on the movement, and pure static fakes a smooth, purposeful ramp. The most famous evidence that your brain decides for you might be a statistical ghost. And if the signal is that flimsy, watch what happens when the choice actually matters. Uri Maus ran the experiment that actually mattered. In 2019, EEG caps on, people chose which charity would get a real $1,000, set against pointless left-right taps. The spooky signal showed up fat and clear for the meaningless twitches. For the real decision, the one with money riding on it, it vanished. The scary evidence only appears when your choice means nothing. So the brain-first story quietly skips every decision you'd actually care about. But even for the twitches, there's a door left standing open. And Libet, the man whose data supposedly buried free will, left that door open himself. You may not get to start the impulse. Fine. But for a sliver of time, you can still cancel it. He called it free won't. You don't choose the urge that rises in you. You choose whether to let it through or kill it. That veto isn't unlimited, though. There's a hard line where the door slams shut. In 2016, the machine raced people's own brains in real time, firing a stop signal straight at their climbing buildup. They could still call the movement off, but only if the stop landed earlier than about 200 milliseconds before it fired. Past that point, the move is committed and nothing calls it back. Before it, the break is genuinely yours. You don't need a lab to feel that deadline. A hitter lives inside it on every single pitch. A batter facing a 90-mile-an-hour fastball gets maybe 0.4 of a second of flight. The swing alone eats most of it. So he has to commit, go or no go, about 1/3 of a second before the ball ever reaches the plate. He literally decides before he has finished seeing the pitch, and he'll swear, every single time, that he watched it all the way in. His body pre-commits, exactly like Libet's finger. Which leaves us with a strange 40-year verdict on the whole business. 40 years, a mountain of studies, and here is where it lands. The gap is rock solid. The build-up really does come before the intention you report. What it means is still an open brawl, a hidden decision, or just noise crossing a line. The fact is real. The famous conclusion never was. And that turns the whole question back onto the one thing that was always yours. So, step back and look at your day. You didn't drive most of it, your body did, and you narrated over the top. The you that feels like a captain at the wheel is mostly a storyteller, scrambling to catch up to a move already made. That's not a cage. The lion, the brake pedal, the fastball, the reflex plays the first note every time, and it always will. The thing that was ever truly yours was never the move. It's the half-second afterward. The gap where you notice what your body just did and decide what to make of whatever comes next. That half second is the whole of you.